Each creative director has strengths and weaknesses, whatever, like, we're all human. And it so happens that, one thing that I really have to heart is the narrative. I think that narrative is one of the areas where we can really improve this next generation, not by creating films, but by creating narratives that are more directly intertwined with the actual actions of the player. If we can find that way of really making the story of the game not be about the cinematics, but about the stuff that happens between the cinematics, by making sure that I'm very hands-on with it, I try to bring it closer to the missions and even to the world so that they're only one experience, because they really should just be one single experience. And this is something like really early when we started talking about the possibility of having a love story in the game. We're like, yeah, but love stories, really? I mean, it's going to be a B plot and it's just going to be cinematics and cheesy or whatever. We started thinking, okay, this is, back then it was next gen. So how do we tell stories that are more mature? How do we tell stories where we can actually pull stuff off that we couldn't before in previous generations, just because of the different tools we had and the different all of that stuff together. And a love story popped up, and we're like, could we pull it off? Well, if we actually pull it off, it could be something that's really, it's really cool for the franchise, but also for storytelling in general in terms of video games. So the only way we felt this could work was if we found a way to make the love story part of the actual main plot of the game mechanically, even the meaning with the game and with the franchise. So this is why Elise, she is Arnaud's love interest, very strong character. She is a Templar. Arnaud is an assassin. Automatically that raises questions about, oh really, but how's that going to work in terms of missions, in terms of like what's Arnaud going to be doing? Is he going to be against her? And this is what we wanted. If you're going to make a love story part of the plot of a game, then you better make that love story actually part of the main narrative and even part of the core of the experience. The fact that she's a Templar, that you're an assassin, will obviously make sure that there's a lot of stuff where we can delve into that story, where it actually means something for your quest, for your main mission, rather than just being sort of a B plot that you sometimes go for a cinematic.
Is there anything else that springs to mind where you think love has been done well in games?
Ico. They pull it off by, again, making it part of the core experience. She's always there with you, holding your hand. It is part of your experience. You can't lose her. It's much like Passage, right? Passage, your only input is the meaning of the game. It's the passage of time. Assassin's Creed is a much more complex game than either of those two games. So obviously you have a lot of different interactions you can do. So it's more difficult to keep it as focused as either Ico or Passage. However, I think that with the specific structure of Assassin's Creed, and especially where we brought that specific structure in Unity, I think we've gotten to a point where we've done a pretty good job of pulling off that love story.
Do you think one of the lessons from Ico then is to have Elise alongside you as much as possible during gameplay?
I mean, we certainly try to do it as much as we can, right? And this is, even not for Elise specifically, like it's something that we've done, even in Revelations we've had, remember the leader of the assassins in Constantinople, we have a really cool character called Yusuf, right? People love the character because he was really boisterous and charismatic. And there's missions, actually your navigation tutorial with the hook blade involved you following Yusuf along the city. So it's something that we try to do a lot with our NPCs. However, we are always capped by the technological limitations of that. If you look at a game like Left 4 Dead, for example, where your interactions or the possible interactions with the universe are navigation, aim and shoot. I'm not going to say it's easy because it's far from easy. It's a huge challenge and it was a great breakthrough. They succeeded in creating that sort of seamless join and AI jump in thing. But however challenging that was, there's less parameters. It's easier to do than in AC because we have a game that is much more complex in terms of the interactions you have with the universe. There's parkour, there's running, there's countless different ingredients. You can melee fight, you can shoot. All of that stuff combined makes it very difficult to have independent AIs with you all the time. We could certainly script them and have them look amazing, but then if we do that, they always do the same thing. And in Unity especially, we're really trying to steer away from that and have characters give more freedom to the player. And if you start doing something unpredictable, then if we scripted the other character as doing something very specific, it breaks the game, right? So the answer is we do it as much as we can with Elise and with any other character, but always in the context of that technological limitation that we are with every game trying to push further and further away those boundaries. Traditionally, I mean, cinematics are used to move the story forward, yes, but also for exposition and character development. We've tried to do all of that stuff as much as possible in the gameplay. Because again, like Eco, like Passage, if the player's actions are helping you develop that empathy towards characters, then you feel like you're doing it. And it actually creates a connection. If somebody's telling you in a cutscene, it doesn't have the same effect because people aren't in the same mindset as when they're watching a movie when you're playing a game.
Trying to align the interests of the player with the interests of the character. Do you have to make the players of this game fall in love with Elise?
That's a good question. I think that through your playing of the game, you will definitely, because you're playing the game through Arnaud's eyes, right? So you will live this game through Arnaud's eyes. I don't know if players will fall in love with Elise. I hope that they will understand why Arnaud fell in love with Elise and why Arnaud loves Elise. I mean, this is like when when you're watching a movie, right? You don't necessarily fall in love with the protagonist's love interest. However, you do feel that level of empathy towards the protagonist and towards love interest, right? Same thing with Unity. I mean, the idea is that by playing Arnaud, you will also, go through those emotions that Arnaud's going through, and hopefully you will empathize with Arnaud and with Elise. The love story is definitely a part of it, but that's not all we have. The story is first and foremost a redemption quest. Arnaud feels that he is responsible for a great wrong, a tragedy that happens at the beginning of the game. And because of this guilt, he feels that he needs the means to, be able to satisfy this need for redemption. So he joins the assassins. And so he embarks on this quest. He starts investigating, trying to get to the bottom of it. Then we have all these different issues that rise up. There's a French Revolution raging, and the French Revolution is being manipulated. There's sort of a force behind the French Revolution. He sort of gets more and more involved with Elise. Elise is a Templar. And then you get the whole question of love versus duty. Does he forsake the Brotherhood for Elise's sake, for love? Or does he stick with the Brotherhood and forsake love? I mean, it's a catch-22. It's an impossible question. And then you get into different themes. You get into all these themes about extremism.
So what do you hope people take away from this game?
My hope is that they, first of all, they love it, and they come to the conclusion that this is really a rebirth of Assassin's Creed, and it is truly a leap forward in terms of all of the experiences that they loved in the previous games, and that this is really the start of a whole new cycle, a new generation of Assassin's Creed.